Good afternoon, Ma'am May, and also to my colleagues. For this afternoon, we will discuss the Renaissance period technology and its contributions in the field of human history to present society. The objectives for this discussion is, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to determine the diffusion of technology during the Renaissance period and explain the relevance of Renaissance toward human history and present society. Renaissance period was originated in Italy, and it begins in 1300 and lasted in 1699. It started at the period from the mid-14th century to the beginning of the 17th was the age of the Renaissance, so called because it represented rebirth of interest in the Greece and Rome of classical antiquity. So, ang Renaissance is pag-usbong muli ng isang nasyon, no? Kung saan, example, in the Dark Ages, nag-fell down man jud ilahang civilization. So sa Renaissance, ilang giusbong muli ang mga technologies, mga inventions through innovations. So mao na siya ang contribution sa Renaissance na ato ang na-apply karon nga days. Rebelling against medieval canons of taste and scholarship, even rejecting in part of the claim of religion to dominate all aspects of human activity. Men of the Renaissance sought wilder field of knowledge, keener satisfaction of the senses, a freer range of endeavor. Through civilizations, they took themselves to be recreating the life of the ancient world, which appeared to them as so much more beautiful, wise, and ingenious than their contemporaneous European world. So, akong gingon ganiya is, ang Renaissance is pag-usbong. So, in Dark Ages, nag-fall man jud to ilang civilization. So, gi-recreate sa Renaissance, gipa-usbong pa jud nila, and gi-innovate nila because gipagwapo nila ilang civilization. Unya, ang ilahang kinaraan nga workings is ilahang gi-usab. So mo na ang contributions. So one of the contributions of Renaissance period. To the exponents of this classical revival, the collapse of the golden civilization of antiquity had introduced an epoch of barbarism from which their own generations were the first to escape. It means after more civilizations gi-introduce ang barbarism. Unsa man ning barbarism? Ang barbarism mao na siya ang pakikidigma sa mga mamamayan para masakop nilang isa ka nasod. Artists, writers, scientists, and even the more refined craftsmen look to the past for inspiration and examples on which to model their own work. So, ang pasabot ani, ang mga artist daw, mga writer, mga scientists, ug ang mga bright nga mga craftsmen, matug gitawag sila mga bright. Ang ilang idea is gigamit nila tong past experiences para ma-apply sila hang work. And with that, Latin and Greek were the indispensable keys to style, knowledge, and good taste. Assuming a foundational significance in education, they were to retain for centuries. So, ang Latin o Greek, mauni sila ang mga susi sa mga knowledge sa mga tao na ilahang sakop. So, ang ilang contribution ani is ang pag-usbong sa education system na ato ang na-experience karon. By the end of the 16th century, Italianate products of all kinds were being manufactured in France, Netherlands, and England. So, pagkatapos daw sa 16th century, di as sa Renaissance is, ang mga Italianate products, unsa man yung mga Italianate products? Ang mga Italianate products, ang example ani is mga hand-painted products, silks, cottons, furnitures, and many more na gina-manufactured siya sa France, Netherlands, and England. So, naturally, the merits of new techniques and styles were not ignored outside Italy. So, ang katong mga Italianate products, wala na-ignore ang mga new technique and styles sa pagbuhat ato. Bisan, gi-manufactured siya sa 3 countries, which is the France, Netherlands, and England. In most cases, in the 16th century, and indeed long afterwards, the diffusion of techniques was chiefly affected by persuading skilled workers to emigrate to regions where their skill were not yet plentiful. Ang mga skillful, ay dili pa siya mga gitawag nga skillful workers, mga dili pa kay plenty ilang mga skill. So nag-emigrate sila sa mga laing regions to apply their knowledge na ilahang nakuha dito sa ilahang work, which is to improve their crafts and so on. Gitawag silang mga plentiful craftsmen because of their innovations in applications of their knowledge that they acquire in different regions they emigrate. Despite the rapid diffusion techniques, local methods and regional excellences could remain significant for relative periods. The best of the instrument makers were splendid craftsmen. Some were learned while others profited by putting into practice the ideas of their learned friends. So, ang kaning diffusion of techniques, ang pasabot ani mauto ang mga gi-apply nila nga knowledge na nag-migrate sila sa lain regions. So, karon gitawag na sila mga splendid craftsmen because of their learned outtakes sa mga regions na ilang giadtuan to their work, while others profited by putting into practice the ideas of their learned friends. So, ang uban ani gina-practice nila tungod sa mga kauban na pud nila nga na learning nga techniques. The best trade probably was in instruments for navigation and surveying, both of which were becoming advanced mathematical arts. So, unsa maning mga instruments for navigation and surveying? Mauni siya mga instruments sa mga travelers sa una or kanang nagaato sa mga lain regions. So, ang kaning mga navigation and surveying, naga-contribute siya sa pag-usbong sa mga mathematical arts. Middle Ages versus Renaissance period. The Renaissance is regarded today as one of the most creative and glorious periods of human endeavor. In terms of the basic inventions and improvements made in the Middle Ages, the Renaissance did little more than to increase their size and scope. So, katong giingon ako ganiya is, ang Renaissance, ang pasabutan na is rebirth. So, ang past experiences nga, example sa Dark Ages, nag-fell down man jud in civilization. So, ang katong mga inventions atong Dark Ages, gi-apply sa Renaissance, pero ilahang gi-usbong or lang gi-usab. Machines became larger and more intricate and production increased, but there were few basic innovations. The few basic innovations, there are two: the printing and gunpowder. First is the gunpowder. The gunpowder is the critical ingredients for the rise of the first guns. So, kung giingon ganiya is, ang gunpowder is originated siya sa medieval China nga gi-apply sa Renaissance period. Ang second is printing. Ang nag-discover aning printing is si Johann Gutenberg. Gi-quicken niya ang spread of knowledge, discoveries, and literacy in Renaissance period. So, ang kaning printing, ginagamit siya sa mga publishing ng mga books, sa mga knowledge, sa mga discoveries sa una sa Renaissance period, and even literacy sa Renaissance. Ang printing is also contributed mightily to the Protestant Reformation that split apart the Catholic Church or the religious beliefs of the Renaissance period. So now, let's proceed to the diffusion of technology reported by Ms. Sabasaje and Balagosa. Your virtual floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rural Pearl B. Sabasaje, and I am here to discuss the diffusion of technology. But before that, aalamin muna natin kung ano ba yung diffusion. So, diffusion comes from the word diffuse or diffuse to spread. So, ang diffusion of technology ay isang proseso kung saan ang paggamit ng bagong teknolohiya ay kumalat, o isa itong proseso kung saan ang inobasyon ay inadapt ng populasyon. Yun po ang diffusion of technology. One of the diffusion of technology during Renaissance is agriculture. It is because of the general population growth of the 16th century, there was a demand for more food. So, pag magtaas ang populasyon, mataas po ang demand sa food, o dapat po daghan ang supply sa food para maiwasan ang kagutom or famine. That's why they decided to increase production by enriching. When we say enriching, ito po yung payamanin or to enhance, to improve the land with animal manure. animal manure or dumi ng hayop. It is used as fertilizer, soil amendment, energy source, even construction materials. Sa seaweeds naman po, ito po ay ang damong dagat as a source of food. Diba? During Roman Empire in Europe, ancient Greeks used seaweeds to feed their animals. Og ang seaweeds food ay ginagamit po siyang ingredients for medicines, for industrial application, and also for fertilizers. But did you know guys that seaweeds is responsible for producing around 70% of the total oxygen on earth. So kanina itong ginalanghap na oxygen, isa sa mga nag-produce ani is ang seaweed. So magpasalamat ta sa seaweeds kay naatay na langhap na oxygen karon. And marl or lime, so sa Bisaya pa mo na siyang ginatawag og panas. So makita nato na siya sa mga sapa. Ginagamit pud ni siya as fertilizer. So katong mga ancient knight, di ba, nagakutkot sila o ganang mga marl or lime kay ginagamit po nila og fertilizer. So kaning animal manure, seaweeds, marl or lime, mo na siya mga practices nga ginagamit before. As you can remember, ang animal manure nag-exist na siya during Neolithic Age or New Stone Age, as well as seaweeds. Ang marl or lime nag-exist na siya during Bronze Age. So mo na siya ang mga practices used long before but neglected before. Nag-neglected siya, it is because wala pa yung mga idea ang mga tao on how to improve or to enrich these mga practices. They also increase land area by breaking new ground or replacing vineyards with green fields. When we say vineyards, it is a plantation of grape-bearing vines. O ganang grain fields, muna siya ang ginatawag og palay. Nganong gi-replace Manila? It is because of the demand for more food, kay kadaghan sa ilahang population. And by reclaiming, when we say reclaiming, it is the process of creating new lands from oceans, seas, riverbeds, or lake beds. As you can see this picture, mo na siya, deserto na siya sa una. Tapos, gihimo nila og green fields and draining waste. So, katong mga basurahan, gihimo na sa nila og green fields. So in agriculture, there was a writer named Anders Verlin. Anders Verlin is a Dutch engineer. So something Dutch, muna siya mga tawag sa mga tao nga napuyo sa Netherlands. So for example, ako, ang tawag sa ko is Filipino. It is because napuyo ko sa Philippines. So si Anders Verlin wrote Tractate Die Kager about 1578. So unsa may Tractate Die Kager? It is all about a warning against fundamental errors in land and water engineering management. So nganong gisulat man niyang Tractate Die Kager? It is because siya mismo saksi siya sa nahitabo sa ilang lugar, which is ang Netherlands, kay naay niabot baha, which is nagresulta siya sa pagkalugi sa mga tao, pagwasak ng mga aririan o katong lupa nga ilang imbis na tamna nila pananom is dili na motubo ang mga pananim kay ngano because of stormy floods o kato nagresulta siya kahirapan o kagutom. That's why Anders Verlin he wrote the first systematic account of land drainage. So when we say systematic, it's all about the method. So diri na pud ta sa windmills and other power devices. So pag ingon tag windmills, usa na siya ka mill or machine operated by the wind. Kay dili pa man uso ang kuryente sa una or wala pa na imbento ang kuryente sa una. So ang ginagamit na lang nila para mo-under ang machine is ang wind or ang hangin. So the earliest mills were little wooden huts. So as you can see this picture, mo na siyang example sa mills wooden huts. So kani si Agostino Ramilli, usa ni siya ka Italian engineer. He wrote Lideverse et Artificious Machine in 1558. Sa Lideverse et Artificious Machine, diri nakapaloob ang mga detailed improvement with its essential structures, or diri nakapaloob ang mga contained mini illustrations, explanations about power water machine such as pumps, winding mills, bridges, and engines for military uses. So kaning Lideverse it artificial machine, it was established by the end of the 16th century. So makita man nato sa Philippines no, natin mga windmills. So ang pinaka-oldest windmills sa Philippines kay ang makita sa Baguio. As early as the 14th century, water power was applied to many industrial uses beside the grinding of grain. So kaning water power, as you can see this picture mo na siyang example sa mga water power. So kanang water power mo na siya ang hydraulic power karon. So ang hydraulic power mo na siyang nag-provide og irrigation support o ginakontrol niya ang flood and also provides clean drinking water. So kani si Georgius Agricola, usa ni siya ka writer, and he is the father of mineralogy. When we say mineralogy, it is the scientific study of minerals. Ginatawag po siya father of metallurgy because he is more concerned with the properties of metal and their production and purification. So, in 1556, he wrote Indere Metallica. Kaning Indere Metallica, dili naka-describe ang mga relation to mining and metallurgy. Like for crushing ore and grinding it, for stirring the mixing tubs, and for blowing the smelting furnaces. So, ang metals, mo na siya gamit yun kaya na siya nung hantod karon Japan. So, both an iron and steel were largely used for manufacture of tools and weapons, armors, clocks, and so on, through the various arts of the smith. So, kaning tools and weapons, armors, clock, ang mga naghimo ana, tawag ana nila is mga smith. So, pag imong papa is worker in metal, ang tawag sa iyaha kung sa villager pa, smith. So, smith, mura siya apelido man sa Hollywood artist, diba? Smith, nice kaya siya paminawan. So, they treat metal by heating, hammering, and forging it. So, sa metal, naputay writers, which is Lazarus Erker. So, Lazarus Erker was a Bohemian metallurgist and assay masters. So, when we say Bohemian, muna sila ang mga ginatawag o vagabond, a person who wanders from place to place. For example, kanang mga writers or mga artists, di ba, naga-explore na sila, naga-wander na sila sa mga laing lugar. Kaya para makakita sila inspiration tapos katong ilang inspiration mo na to ilahang gina-drawing or gina-sulat. Ginatawag po siya assay master. So, pag may natag-assay master, dili nang ginaingon nila nga assay master, magkay kaoy ka ng assay kaon to dili na ingana. So, ang assay master mo na sila ang mga officer nga gina-test or ginasuri nila ang gold or silver or coin. So, in 1574, Lazarus Erker wrote description of leading ore processing and mining methods. So, kung asa niya gi-represent ang systematic view of the techniques that in use for testing alloys and minerals of silver, gold, copper, mercury, and so on. So, kaning iyang gi-wrote in 1574, giregard ni siya as the first manual of analytic and metallurgy chemistry. So, muna siya si Lazarus Erker. The rising standard of living o ang pagtaas ng antas ng pamumuhay. So, ang pagtaas ng antas ng pamumuhay, isa na dyan ang agriculture, the omnipresent green mill, and the metal industries represented by a smith. So, these were part of technology, fabric of life that was changing rapidly in early modern times. So, kaning tulo, importante kay ni siya sa to alaboy na juning agriculture is kay ngano mo man siya ang naga-supply sa tog food, ang green mills food, ang metals kanang ginagamit nato pang adlaw-adlaw para mapadali ato ang buhaton. Makita pa nato sa tools ang pagtaas ng antas ng pamumuhay. Like for example, aning wooden spade to iron spade. So, katong wooden spade kay magabukra siya, dali ra siya maguba niya, kanang dili siya pang long lasting. While sa iron spade is pang long lasting siya, magamit pa nimo siya for how many years, for how many months. Ug naa jud siya forever. Pero why kamo? And also, hops transform ale into beer. So, kanang hops, muna siya ang green cone-shaped flowers that contains acids and oils that impart bitterness, kanang pait, flavor, and stability to the finished beer. So, kanang ale, muna siya ang type sa beer. William Lee. So, William Lee is an English clergyman. So, pag may nga clergyman, wanang tawag sa mga male priest, minister, or religious leader. So, si William Lee, siya ang nag-invent sa knitting machine in 1589. So, ang knitting machine, it is a device used to create knitted fabrics in a semi or fully automated fashion. Press anang knitted silk hose kanang nasa picture. So, kanang knitted silk hose become the range. So, pag may ngantag the range, kanang gi-adapt nimo ang fashion. So, na-adapt ang fashion in the 16th century. Transportation expansion. Tungod sa higher living standards ug sa pagtaas sa mga technical proficiency, so kinahanglan pud ang great expansion of trade and travel, like wheelbarrow and a wooden trucks in mines. So kaning duha mo ni sila ang mga important additions to industrial and land transport. So ginagamit ni sila para maghakot og balas, yuta, or mines. Because of the great expansions of transportations, so nagkinahanglan pud sila mga bigger port facilities. Press anang numerous ships. Di ba ang numerous ships? Kay dako kay na siya kung mingon mo tag numerous, dako kay na siya great in number. So, numerous ships mo na siyang ginagamit para sa pagkikipagkalakalan or travel, and large dockside cranes. And also because of the great expansion of trade and travel, na-invento ang railway. So, kanang railway muna siya ang agianan sa tren. So, in 1450s, the first through canal were begun in near Milan. So, kanang Milan muna siya ang capital city of northern Italy. Canal is used to transport water for irrigation. O ginagamit diraapod sila nagaagi para ma-barge ang traffic. So that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot.
Textiles in Renaissance era was started at 14th century, but the rising of Italian textiles was started at 15th to 16th century. The textiles that they produced are woolen, cotton, silk, rugs, fine linen, velvet, and satin. Woolen is known from England for its high quality, while cotton, silk, and rugs from East Europe. In Renaissance era, only wealthy people can afford the expensive textiles like satin, velvet, and silk. The wealthy women, their clothes are made of silk and precious metals, while the men made up of cotton, satin, and velvet. The lower class in Renaissance era, their clothes are made of linen, sheep, and wool. In Renaissance era, they used painted wool to create clothes, rugs, even carpets. At 15th century, unknown inventor added flyer to the spindle wheel. The purpose of flyer is to pull and twist the thread or the yarn. Ang purpose sa flyer is madungan gud siya og bira og twist. Di na siya kailangan na isa-isahon pa, dili ka pwestong wala pa yung flyer. Ang spindle wheel is isa-isahon nila ang pag-twist o pag-pull sa yarn or ang threads. The first clock used in Renaissance is sundial. It's used to measure time by the day, by the shadow direction. Kung walay init o gabi na, dili sila ka-measure sa time, kay ginagamitan na nila ni og kaning hayag sa init. The first mechanical clock was invented by Christian Huygens. It invented in Netherlands, Europe, During Renaissance, the first mechanical clock was invented by Christian Huygens. It invented in Netherlands, Europe, back 1656. Ang kanich na concept sa mechanical clock is una kay Galileo Galilei. Pero kay namatay man siya o ganyan na human mo to gipadayon na lang ni Christian Huygens. O kaning mechanical clock gipangalan na og pendulum clock. Instruments. Instruments in Renaissance era. Quadrants. It measures angles up to 90 degrees. It measure can be used to calculate various readings such longitude, latitude, and time of the day. Gunner's quadrant used for measuring elevation or depression angles of guns or canyons. Astrolabe is used to find altitude and latitude. Triquetrum. Tri means three. Quitrum means concern. Is used to determine heavenly bodies, and it defines the zenith distance and the parallax of the moon. Armillary sphere. It is used as teaching tools and analog computer for solving various astronomical problems. Good degree of accuracy. Neutrino. It is used to determine the local time based on the relative position of two or more stars in the sky. Jacob's star. It is used as transit or compass, and also it used measure heights and distance. Sextant. It is used to determine angle between the horizon and the celestial, such as moon, sun, and stars. Also, it is used to celestial navigation to determine latitude and longitude. Equatorium, it is used to find the position of moon, sun, and planets without arithmetic operation. Caliper is used to measure dimension of the object. Drawing compass, it is used to draw circles, drafting arc, navigation, and measuring distance. Telescope. Telescope is the most important instrument that invented in Renaissance period. Telescope was invented of Galileo Galilei. Telescope is used to magnify object in a far away. Kapag lang stars na gagmay, kung gusto na itong klaroon, paggamitan na siya telescope, is maklaro kayo na to ang star. Warfare in Renaissance era. Beginning of modern European history is katong pag-introduction nila sa gunpowder. Ang gunpowder kay nag-uspa-usab sa ilahang style sa pagkikipagdigma. Tungod pud sa gunpowder, ang ilahang mga tools is nag-improve. Tanan mga kagamitan nila is ginagamitan jud nila og gunpowder. Kapres na yung artillery, ginagamitan niya siya og gunpowder, unya ginadulitan siya og kayo, tapos moto mo, lupad siya, unya dito siya mutog pa sa katungki. Asa ko natungod ang kaning tumoy sa artillery. Dito siya mutog pa, unya dito siya mubuto. Kapresa sila sa canyon, inanapod ang canyon, pero 1325 nag-start ang canyon o gamit. Tungod din mga kagamitan na, kay nag-believe sila nga dako kay sila possibility nga mudaog sa war. Ang crossbow ug longbow is nailisan og handgun. 1450 nag-appear ang handgun. Ginagamit nila ang handgun kay mas improve na ni kaysa sa uban pang mga weapons na ginagamit dati. Tanan nila ginagamit na weapons is ginagamitan jud og gunpowder. Printing in Renaissance era. The first printing was invented by Johann Gutenberg of Mainz, Germany. Pangalanan ni siya og printing press. Tungod ani na machine, dali na kaayo mag-copy og image or text. Tungod ani dili na siya manong-manong. Gamitan lang siya og ink og mga papel. Daghan na kay kaog mabuhat nga mga copy sa imong gustong kapihon nga image or text. Dili na madugay kay tungod kay mas easy na siyang gamiton. Tungod ani nga printing press is dali na jud kaayo ang pamaagi sa pag-copy.
As recapitulation, the Renaissance was a time of transition from the ancient world to the modern and provided the foundation for the birth of the Age of Enlightenment. The developments in science, art, philosophy, and trade, as well as technological advancements like the printing press, left lasting impressions on society and set the stage for many elements of our modern culture.
The diffusion of technology during Renaissance seeks to explain how and why new ideas and practices being adopted with timeless potentially spread out over long periods, or it describes the pattern and speed at which new ideas, practices, or products spread through a population, just like agriculture, which is very essential to human needs. Metals, which played a vital role in the advancement of agriculture, transportation, and arts and crafts. Also, the writers that give us ideas of improvements that help us to understand and promote the adoption of new product, that we could have an amazing world where technological innovations spread wisely from generation to generation.